Hello, friends. How's it going? Welcome to Car Chats. This is where I'm going to yap about all things local elections while in Carline. I am, yes, in Carline. Um, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time waiting in Carline. So why not utilize it to yap? So here we are. So we're going to talk about local elections for a minute. We get really fired up about governor races and president races. And whenever they're on the ballot, usually in a November, every 4 years, you get a lot more people to the ballot. You get a lot more people interested, a lot more people paying attention because, in their mind, the president and the governor really affect them. And that's like the big race, and that's the one that you want to do. But in reality, um, the people making decisions for our every single day life are not those people. They are not those people. They are our local elections. They're the ones that affect our kids, our taxes, our property, our daily life. And they're just sitting in rooms 10 feet from or 10 miles from where we live, 10 minutes, very close to us. Um, Things like the school board, which is, they determine all the curriculum and all the policies. So many things are affecting our kids are determined by our local school board. Our county commissioners, they determine our taxes, our spending, our law enforcement spending also. Those are big things in our daily life. City councils, they usually do zoning, growth, business permits, the beer board. Those are also things that really affect our local everyday life, who they give permits to, who they let open businesses. And then judges are another thing that we elect, and those have like real impact on our community safety. So these are all things that actually affect our day to day life versus the president and the governor. Now, obviously, the president and the governor makes a huge difference on our federal government spending, all that kind of stuff, but actually, our day to day life is way more affected by these decisions from local authorities, local people elected, than the president or the governor is ever going to affect us daily. And so, because of that, it's so important that we get involved in there. The federal government feels and sounds loud, but our local government is personal. It's personal. And we've got to be involved when it comes personal. And the sad thing is that local elections are usually decided on by the smallest margin. They usually say like 10 to 20%. In our case, in Hamlin County, 7.9% voted in the last local election. That is pathetic. Pathetic. If you're not voting in a local election, then you're letting someone else in your town make those decisions, and they may not line up with what decisions you make. Let's take, for instance, locally, the jail. If you didn't vote in the local election that put those county commissioners in place to make the decision on the jail, you don't get to complain about the jail because you should have been there to vote and put people in place that were going to listen to you if you didn't want the jail built. Same goes for the community center. If we didn't want a community center, then we should have elected people into city council that heard our views and heard that we didn't want that. And that goes across the board for so many things. But if we never vote, we don't get to say. We just got to shut up, right? And it's uh I have notes. It's really hard. I need to figure this out in the car. Like, where am I putting my notes so that I don't lose my place? Um, if we're going to talk about transparency, that's right. If the only way to find out about what's happening is by a legal notice in the paper, which is legally what they have to do. So if you were going to like the code enforcement, if there's anything that affects the property around our entire town, it has to be by law put in the paper first. So like easements or anything that they're doing like that, adding roads, has to be put in the paper. Who gets the paper? Let's be honest. Who is reading the paper? I'm not reading the paper. I don't even get the paper. I probably should get the paper now. I mean, if there's a really important article, usually you get like one a month you can read before they say, no, you have to get a subscription. But that's all they have to do. Those rules have not been updated to meet 2026, where they should just be putting it on social media on the city page or the county page or whatever. Um, or you can go to a meeting, but a lot of times those meetings are at 4 p.m., 5 p.m. That is like the worst time ever for anyone that works a 9 to 5, anyone that picks up kids at 3:30 sitting in Carline, and then they have to get a snack, and then they got to get them to sports, or they got to get them to gymnastics, or they got to get them here, piano lessons, get home, we got to get dinner done. Terrible time, terrible time. And so things like that, that's not transparency. That's just technical compliance. They're complying with the rules and what they have to do. They have to have a meeting and they have to post the times for people to come, but they're going to make it an inconvenient time. And they have to put it in the paper that nobody gets anymore. So that's not good transparency at all in our local elections. And so our goal is to change that, because when you don't have that transparency, people don't come out and vote. And if people don't come out and vote, we end up with jails, $110 million jails in our downtown that we don't want. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. um, yeah. So going along with local elections and getting out there and vote, one of the main reasons people do not get out and vote to local elections is they have no idea who's running. And it's because everyone that's usually running is of the older age group, probably over the age of 50, and they are stuck in 1985. No offense if you're running and you're not, but I have done the numbers. We have 37 people running locally this time for the May 5th election. 37 people. 3 of them have candidate Facebook pages where they're keeping you up to date with what they plan on doing if they get elected. 3 of them. Both mayors that are running for mayor and school board. So we have 1 school board member and 2 that are running for mayor that have and there's a county commissioner, sorry. And a county commissioner that has candidate Facebook pages. Most people do not have candidate Facebook pages. They just have personal pages. You cannot do that. First of all, people's personal Facebook pages are not curated for running a candidacy. They're just not. It's usually like really weird shares, birthday notices, and then like inside jokes that mean nothing, that you should be a public servant. So I really encourage you to make your personal Facebook page private and just start a public candidate Facebook page that everybody can see what you're about, ask you questions, and do all those things on there. So many people have just personal Facebook pages that you have to request to be their friend. There's 5 or 6 that I've requested to be their friend in December, and I've yet to be friended. Like, that is not transparency. That is terrible. Um, I saw a post in one of the Morristown pages that said pretty much, if you're running for office, please do not knock on my door. I do not think door knocking is something we should be doing in 2026. And I'm not going to lie, I'm with this person. I think door knocking in 2026 is weird. Do I think it's necessary? Probably. Do I think it's necessary at the local level? I'm not really sure, but I do know people that have door knocked. That was in a competitive race, and that's what pushed them over. So it probably is. Um, but I'd be curious. What do you think about door knocking? Um, I think that social media is where it's at, and I think that so many people no longer, um, no, so many people that run are of the older generation and they just don't see the benefits of social media. And I just think that's so terrible. Social media is where it's at. 54% of Americans in 2025 got their news from social media. 74%, I think, got it from maybe like YouTube videos and stuff like that, like online videos. That shows that if you want to hit 54% of your constituents, you need to be online doing something. That doesn't mean you don't put signs out. That doesn't mean you don't do the other things, but you need to be doing that. So this is kind of a two-part thing. Um, Voter turnout is huge. And in order to push that narrative and get people to show up at the polls, the candidates need to do a better job of getting them there. That's just bottom line. It's a twofold thing. Voters will show up if candidates push for them to get there. But if candidates do nothing but put out a sign, and that's all we ever see is cluttered signs everywhere in the age where we are so bombarded and overstimulated by all the things, a whole bunch of signs just shuts us down. So it's a tool. We still have to do it. I get that. But I really hope that our candidates put a big focus on social media. There are so many benefits to it. You're going to access the younger voters. I agree. Over the age of 60, you probably don't care about social media. You're happy to meet at Hillbilly Cafe or whatever it's called, and have a cup of coffee with your cronies and talk about politics. That's great. But me as a mom, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I need you to hit me in my 15 minutes of scrolling and tell me why I need to show up and vote. It's just the reality of it. And I'm not that young. So I know that the 20-year-olds that all have, all the 20s that have toddlers are not showing up to have coffee with you. They're not showing up to chili cook-offs. They're not doing it. They don't have time for that. So you've got to hit them where they are. And that happens to be social media. Get on Facebook. You see the comments in the Living in Morristown page. It's ridiculous the amount. I can see a post in Living in Morristown, and an hour later, I cannot find that post because there's been so many things posted that I can't even find that post that I just saw. It happens all the time. So you get much higher engagement in voting if you go on social media. You get real time data. If something hits you and you're like, I need to talk about this right now, you can immediately go on and post. You don't have to wait till the next time you have a coffee date or the next time you have a live event that you have to talk about. You can go online at that moment and share exactly what you're thinking. City council meets tonight. If something's on that city council, you can jump on your page and be like, hey, I heard city council's meeting tonight and I'm not for this. What do you think about this? Obviously, this is a county race, but I'm just giving you examples. Same with county commissioner, property. It's real time. If something happens that day, you can address it that day because you have social media. It is cost effective. It's virtually free. If you do it well, you could never pay for anything. Now, granted, you can pay for ads and get it sent very specifically to your district so that they all see it. And I think that's a great thing to do. But you could also do it for free and still do pretty well. And it increases your competition. If you are showing up at people's feet constantly, the people running against you are going to panic. It's just what it is. I think it humanizes candidates. If I don't know anything about you, but I go on there and I see something funny, I see your family, I see you serving somewhere. Let's take, for instance, who's really good at this? Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett is so great at being human. He's funny. He'll show you when he's dealing with his donkeys. He makes skateboards out of old barn boards and he walks you through how he does it. He humanizes himself. That is so important. And when I say humanize, I do not mean humanize yourself like a candidate. I mean humanize yourself like an actual human. Like, it's one thing, you still need to do things like Chris Cutshaw's reading books to kindergartners or whatever, preschoolers at the library. That is really great. But that is a very political campaign move. I also want to see him doing something that's just normal family life. Does that make sense? Like Tim Burchett doing his donkeys. Um, so that it encourages turnout. The more they see this stuff, the more chance they're going to turn out to vote. And then it's just relatable and informative. That's what we want. We want to be relatable to our constituents. You can't be relatable if all you do is put out a sign. And I'm going to really, just those of you that are just voters, which you guys are the most important, if you're just voting, please show up. Show your kids how important it is. Voting is so dang important. And I know there's a lot of flack that voting doesn't matter. Oh, my vote doesn't count. Blah blah. It's rigged. Blah blah. Maybe at the federal level. Maybe I still don't believe that. I believe in our system. I think there's been a few years where we've had some bad cheating, but I think that it's back on track, and I think that that's getting cleaned up. But at the local level, that's not happening. At the local level, it really just comes down to numbers and who shows up. And like I said, school board, these affect our children, our property, our taxes. So let's make sure we show up. And Carline is now moving. So see you tomorrow.